Hi guys, welcome back. This is the week 9 lecture on the white paper. This is your second lecture for this week. Let's kind of go back over here to week 9. So this is what your week 9 looks like, and I'm going to show you, looking ahead, we're going to go up to important course documents, just in case you've forgotten how to get here. Writing samples and clearinghouse. I've cleaned this up a little bit now that you've seen some of the stuff that's been there. I've put them into folders. They're all still there. So if you're looking for something, just look around a little bit more and it'll make a little bit more sense. We're going to be jumping way ahead here to the white paper. Now, I know the white paper is far off in the future. Here is a little opportunity for you to kind of take stock, take a minute to say, okay, where am I at? And how can I get to the end point that I need to get to? What's involved? So we need to take a little bit of an overview. So I'm going to be looking at what's called, so there's a lot of different details here, a lot of different samples. I'm going to be opening this white paper assignment details for right now to show you what are the main components of what we're looking for. All right. So if you need to refer back to it, this is where you're going to find all those basic details, okay? So again, this is an overview. Each of these particular components of the paper that I'll be talking about will go over more in depth as we move forward. This is just for you to kind of look ahead and say what's coming. And if you're behind, which I hope none of you are, but if you're behind, this gives you the opportunity to catch up quickly. Okay, so again, let's talk real quickly about the difference between primary and secondary research. Most of you are doing primary research. You're investigating a component, you're creating something, a widget. If you're in senior design, this talks about you for the most part, although it is possible that some of you will also be doing primary research, as we've discussed in our conversations. Some of you might be gathering survey information from people that might be clients. Some of you might be interviewing people to say, what do you need? Those are also types of primary research that a secondary person might also be doing. So some of those components will overlap. If you are on the secondary research, you're English people, you are in phase 1 instead of phase 2. We've talked about this before. If you are one of those people, you're going to be spending a lot more time in the library. You're going to have a different kind of paper. I'll show you some samples, coming up, so you'll be able to see a little bit of both. Your white paper document is going to be a little different than the primary people, so I just want to make sure that you're all familiar with how this could work. This document will talk to you a little bit more about what that means or what that could look like to start you off. All right, so let's go over some details. When you turn in a white paper, these are the things that you're going to have as components. You have a list of written components, you have visual components. So in your abstract or executive summary, let's take a look at that right here. I do not need to see both usually, right? Because I feel like they're somewhat redundant when you have a shorter document. But for those of you in senior design, the documentation required of you often requires both of those items. For my particular class, you do not have to have both. One or the other is sufficient, but keep in mind that sometimes you do need both. Going down, an introduction. All right, so an introduction feels a little bit similar to an abstract or executive summary, doesn't it? But it is important for you to remember, as we've talked about in the past, this is to remind someone really quickly, like a boss, of the overall scope and view of your paper, perhaps any context that they need to go, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, so this is a really important section. You'll have background, you'll have a problem statement, what's the problem? You'll have a solution or explanation statement. Again, remember the maps that we're talking about, concise, clear, short, money, right? People want to see this quickly. They want to be able to look at it really quickly, to understand it fast, and to move forward. That's your job. And it's also a very difficult job. It's much harder than it sounds to write something simply, crisply, concisely. So that's why it's very rare to find an engineer who can both think in a complex manner but be able to explain it to people who are not in the field. If you can manage that, you'll be in high demand. All right, so explanation and discussion of data, explanation and discussions of findings. What did you find? What are your results? What are the conclusions or recommendations you have for the future? So you might find that sometimes, some of the way through, you might find, oh, you know what? There's this piece of research that we can't find, that we can't do for some particular reason, that could go into your recommendations. We recommend in the future that this particular item or research be done. Let's see. Oh, so you'll notice that some of these are also headings you've been familiar with in the past for various types of things that you've written. So keep in mind that some of those things, you might even use some of the same wording. All right, so one of the things I want you to think about with the writings that we've done in this class is how they differ and why. So there's a difference in present, past, and future tense in how you have written or will write something. When you wrote something when you first began this project, when you made a proposal to me and said, I propose to do this, or to your other professor, you proposed in the future, right? I propose that I'm going to do this. You explained why you were credentialed to do it, how you could do it, and what you were going to do to fix the problem. That was in the future. Now, the progress report, which is what you're working on right now, if you're watching this in the time you're supposed to be, the progress report is in the present tense, right? Okay, so I proposed this. This is now what I'm doing. I am doing this. Here are the problems I'm encountering. This is what's happening in my report right now, my research. The white paper that I'm talking about right now, that's the future, or that's the past, sorry. So once you get to that point, it's going to be, now I have completed this. So it's going to be done in the past tense. You have completed, you have finished. This is what you found. So you'll see that there's a lot of repetition between the three items, and they're talking about the same thing, but the angle is very different, right? So keep that in your mind, especially if you copy and paste, which is possible for copying and pasting some things. Make sure that you go back and review it so it makes sense. All right, so visual contents, that's really important. This looks a little bit different from some of the technical things you've done in the past. Keep in mind that a white paper has a lot of visual content. All of the student examples that you're going to see, some of them I'll go over, some I won't, those will contain a lot of visual content to help explain things. White papers are often used by businesses as marketing material, which is also a reason why you might be talking not only to a reader, to a client, but you also might be talking to somebody who's not in your field, such as a marketing manager, to put this together. So that's important for you to be able to think, like, if I weren't in this field and I didn't know anything about this, how could I visually portray what I'm talking about very clearly? So let's see, visual, oh yeah, keep it up here. All right, so you'll have images, you might have photographs of something as you went along in a finished product. You might have graphics, charts, graphics. I think I will show you one that's about farmland, and there's an overhead of the farmland and different areas of the pasture land that need to be repaired. Those kinds of things are really important for us to be able to see as you see and understand what's going on in your head. As we go to the format, you're going to be, I'm going to be looking for the same basic things we've been finding so far: full block, single space, appropriate headings. Headings are really important for being able to skim this. You may opt to use the 2-column page layout or other such sort of stylistic choice. I really like the 2-column layout. It does look a little bit more weighty, but it's up to you, and it really is up to the project that you're doing what works best. How can you best do this? It might make a difference in how you choose to do the graphics too, whether single or double works better. So you make that decision based on what works for you. You'll be submitting this, most of you will be submitting a PDF file because they're larger, they have graphics, so the data is larger. However, a Microsoft Word document, DocX, is also appropriate if it works for you. I'm not going to go over the rest of this here, but do read through all of these things, especially this Purdue OWL information on the white papers. That's our Purdue OWL. This is the information you can also get help with when you go to the Tutor Center if you decide to do that, which I recommend. These different readings from the textbook also will be very helpful in showing you what is a white paper, what does it look like, and remember that all white papers are not the same. It really depends quite a lot on the type of topic, type of research that you're doing, how it's going to look. And remember, those of you doing secondary research, your paper is going to be a lot larger and have less graphics than those of you who are doing primary research, where you're doing something yourself and showing it. Okay, some final notes on these things. The second meeting that I used to require that second meeting. Now it is an optional meeting. Some of you will need it, some of you won't. You can do that together or as a group. I'll be opening up some time, usually on Monday afternoons. That's when I'm on campus. So if Monday afternoon works for you, that's great. If not, we can work out something else via phone, Skype, something else. So you'll just have to email me and see what we can work out. Again, it's optional though. Second meeting is optional. If you're not having a perfectly conforming group, you may want to make that a priority. Okay, so keep in mind that this white paper is a hugely substantial document, much more than what you've done so far. It does take some of the components of what you've done so far, but this is not something that you can do in a week or 2 weeks or overnight. Not going to happen. This will show that you've done a semester's worth of data research and putting things together. It cannot be done in a rushed manner. Don't even try. Make sure also, I do look and make sure that your rough drafts are substantially different than your final drafts. This is important. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, what else can I tell you? That's pretty much it for now. We'll be going over. Oh, well, let me show you where a few things are since I have a minute. Let's get rid of the white paper document. Again, that's under Writing Samples and Clearinghouse, the white paper folder. You'll see here a ton of student samples. Much of this will be going over. There's a lot of information here. Some of them are things that might fit an engineering or an MET student. Some of them would fit more of a general or an English student type of thing. So do kind of pick and choose what works best for you. I've tried to pick a bunch of range so that you can say, okay, that one kind of would work for me, or oh, this one would work better. There's a lot of different stylistic choices. Just think about them a little bit. And we'll be going through, I'll be having several more presentations so that we talk about different components as we move forward. But this is where you can find a lot of information if you're interested in thinking, okay, where am I at? I need to take stock of this. I need to think through where I am right at this moment and how can I look forward. So this will be very helpful to you in planning ahead. So oh, one last little note that I do want to make clear to you. Because the white paper is often done as a marketing item, it does look very different than sort of a standard IEEE document that you might have done in the past. With all the document visual aids and graphics and charts, the idea for that is to be engaging to your audience. Engaging your audience means an audience that is not an engineering audience. This is the hardest part. So you're going to be looking out at many different fields and engaging them and bringing them into the fold, so to say. So they're something that you probably will have to do at some point in the future. And that is where I'm going to end our week 10 discussion. Looking forward, you know where to get a hold of me via email. If you need something, if you're worried about something, if things are going awry, which happens sometimes, take a look at this and say, okay, how can we recoup this? How can we adapt the problem that we're having? How can we make this work? Okay? And have a fabulous rest of the week.